everyone, Sabora here. This is going to be lesson 8 on incense. I may break this up into 2 videos. I really don't know how I feel about that yet, but we'll just see how it goes. So I'm going to go over a couple of terms with you. The first is incense and sensing. They are the coverage of a person or place with incense smoke. Fumigation, and that's incensing with the intent to drive off evil and disease. Smoking, which is directing and wafting smoke from a container onto an object or living thing. And smudging, which is smoldering herbs wafted throughout the air. Now, in Egypt, incense was used in the morning, noon, and night rituals, evening rituals. They were frankincense, myrrh, and kapet. Frankincense and myrrh being standalone ingredients, and kapet being a combination of quite a few ingredients. I actually do have some made here. These are not dog biscuits, they're incense. Okay. It's not dog food. It's incense. Kind of looks like dog food though. Kind of made them a little big too. Don't really need that much. Alright. Now, when it comes to hoodoo, incense is used to correspond, to set the mood, to correspond to colors in your spell work, to correspond with your colors in your spell work, and to combine certain energies to be a harmonious unit when it comes to spell work. And I'll give you an example of that. When you're making a mojo, you will pass each of the ingredients through the incense smoke, or at least that's how I do it. And then when you make your final mojo, you'll pass the bag through the incense smoke. I do it 3 times because 3 is significant to me, but hey, you gotta do you. Passing it through the incense smoke combines all of the energies I've put into the bag to be a harmonious unit to bring about whatever it is I need. So if I'm making a money one, or a luck one, or a protection one, that's what the incense smoke does. It combines all of those ingredients and harmonizes them into a concisive thought. Okay? Hope that makes sense. Now, with incense in hoodoo, because you can buy commercially available incense, usually it's dyed sawdust that's been fragranced with some type of oil. And I personally just don't like going that route. It's cool that it's colored, and usually they are combustible, so you don't have to worry about getting involved with this charcoal mess shit. But I don't know. Typically, it's not even, it doesn't even have roots or any kind of plant matter in it. It's not even essential oils they use. They're fragrant oils, which means that they're just chemical compounds. They have no plant matter in it at all, and the plant matter is where you get the vibrations from. Okay, so that's how I think. If you feel differently, so fucking be it. But that's just how I feel. So I always like to make my own. If you want to kind of like half-ass it, you can get that, buy 1 or 2 ingredients that you would use normally in your incense recipe, throw it in with the combined powdery shit you just bought, bless it, and set that crap on fire. Because that's how that works. I mean, like, if you want to go that way, that's cool. That's sort of how I do it when it comes to my own washes and stuff like that. I buy pre-made washes like Florida water, and then I add different types of essential oils to those washes depending on what they're for. Okay? So, there's always a compromise. There's always another way to skin a fucking cat. Alright? Now, just like with bathing and other things, when it comes to smoking a person, you want to go up the body to attract, down to banish. When you go to the cemetery and you collect crossroad dirt, in order to keep the spirits from following you, you break out the smudge stick and you go from top to bottom. Okay? When you want to attract the new lover, you go from the bottom of your feet up to attract a new lover. Does that make sense? I hope so. Alright, moving on. Now, when it comes to incense, you can use it as a standalone ritual object. So if you and your kids have a nasty fight, then you can smudge the living room or the bedroom or wherever it is that it took place to clear out those negative energies. Or you can combine it with other ritual steps and create massive complex spells. So if you have that fight with your kids, you can perform a whole house cleansing by cleaning everything up, and then using floor washes and spiritual baths and scrubs and crap like that and incenses in order to purify and cleanse your home and then bring about peace. So, a couple different ways you can include incense here. Alright? Now, the stuff that I'm going to be teaching you, I think I've got a dog here in my eye. Sorry if I keep touching my eye. The stuff that I'm going to be teaching you is going to be non-combustible loose incense, which means that you've got to mess with this nasty charcoal shit. Although, like I said, combustible loose incense is available on the market for hoodoo practitioners. Usually they're dyed sawdust, so that's usually combustible though. What I mean by that is it's usually got an ingredient in it, like saltpeter, that allows the plant matter to burn, the sawdust to burn, and release the fragrant oils and stuff like that. Now, if you want to go that route, usually they do smell pretty good. Burning plant matter never really smells great. So I will be going over several things that you can do to kind of make it smell better. But you got to remember, hoodoo magic, it's not aromatherapy. It's not meant to be aromatherapy. It's meant to invoke certain vibratory patterns to help with your spell work. So don't be putting these things together thinking they have to smell nice, because they don't. Okay? Although, scent is powerful. So if you want it to smell pretty, then fucking go for it. Alright? This is your magic. Yeah. Moving on. Okay, so a couple of things that you are going to need before you're able to start making your own recipes and stuff. One of these things is going to be spoons, measuring spoons. Okay, I got these at like Dollar Tree, dollar store. Mostly because a lot of the recipes and stuff that I'm going to give you, and a lot of the recipes that I've found, come in parts, if at all. Some of them just have ingredients listed, and it's up to you to figure out what portions go where. And how much of what through experimentation. So it's important to have this. It's also important to have a journal because of those experimentations. You're going to write down all the successful ones you want, and you're going to want to write down all the nasty ones that you never want to repeat, okay? So it's very important to record everything that you do, every step you take, every ingredient you add, and at what proportion, because eventually you may want to replicate them, or you may want to never see that monstrosity you created ever again. Okay? So it's important to record. Some of the other things you're going to need, because again, this is going to be non-combustible incense, you're going to need something to burn it on. Now, these charcoal discs are for hookahs, for burning hookah, which is kind of a flavored wet tobacco. So you can find these at any store that sells hookah supplies, okay? You can even order these on Amazon. They're just hookah charcoal discs. This is actually a lot of charcoal disc for my rituals. My rituals tend to last maybe an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes even 30 minutes. So a lot of the times when I get them, I'll break them in half, or even, most of the time it's even quarters that I break it into. It's pretty easy to do. You just take the disc and snap it. Breaks apart really easy. So then you're just left with this little quarter piece like this. And then what you'll do is, using tongs, because you don't want to use your bare hands here, we are dealing with fire. Using tongs, you'll take a lighter or a candle or whatever, a flame source, and you'll hold it to your charcoal disc, wait for it to start sparking, because it will spark because of the saltpeter. and it'll fizzle and go all the way through the charcoal disc, or at least it's supposed to. And that is supposed to get the charcoal started burning. Now, I've had a lot of problems with charcoal discs, so I don't use this method anymore. I just implore the fucking stove. I have an electric stove with coils. I turn that on. I set the charcoal on the lit stove, wait for it to sparkle and fizzle and do its thing, flip it over, wait for it to glow red, and then place it into a pot filled with ash. This is my incense pot. I choose ash. You can use sand, you can use salt, whatever. I found ash works best for me. So when burning your incense, your random, smelly, wonderful incense, keep the ashes, okay? Because they do come in useful. They do come useful. So, once this is lit and cherry red and glowing, what you're going to do is place it into your pot of whatever it is, sand, whatever. I like to kind of cover mine just lightly bury it. It's right here, okay? And this forms a barrier for when it comes to sprinkling your incense. There's a hair. Sorry about that. Which prevents your incense from just burning up. It kind of helps it to smolder a little bit more. And that helps to keep a better smell about. You're not just smelling straight up burnt shit, okay? So what you do is you just need the tiniest bit, because a little bit of, especially resin-based incense, like this one here is very heavily resinated, you don't need a lot of it. Alright, so you're just gonna get the tiniest amount, like about that much, and just lightly sprinkle it. That may have even been too much, I don't know. Just lightly sprinkle it on the disc and let it smolder. And then you'll go back throughout the ritual and sprinkle a little bit more on it and sprinkle a little bit more on it. It's kind of up to you. This is kind of labor intensive, and that's why a lot of covens and stuff will assign certain jobs to different witches. It's just like, okay, you're in charge of the incense. Okay, you're in charge of the cakes and ale. Okay, you're in charge of ritual prayer. Okay, you're in charge of setup. It's supposed to, it's kind of a hard job, so it's supposed to be dictated out in European traditions. But hey, I'm a solitary. I'm adventurous. Let's give this a shot. Let's see if I can do it. Alright, so we're approaching the 15-minute mark. I did kind of want to give a few incense recipes out, but I think I'm going to have to just... let's do one, okay? So let's go ahead and do an altar incense. Now, the altar incense is an incense that you burn at regular intervals while calling upon deities to bless and watch over your space, supposedly. Scott Cunningham lists his recipe in his book, Oils, Incense, and Brews. Did I even grab that? No, it's up on the shelf, isn't it? Yeah, there it is. He lists in his recipe a different portion list than the one I'm going to give you. This is the one that I've come to like, the one that I like to use, and it's very Egyptian-y. These are ingredients that the Egyptians would have had at their disposal. So, Christian Kemetic, pay attention. This one's for you, sweetie, okay? So, 4 parts cinnamon, 3 parts frankincense, and 2 parts myrrh. Oh, I totally forgot one of the last things you're going to need here. Good strong mortar and pestle. Get this out of the way. Now, mine's granite. That's a very Egyptian-y stone, okay? And it's also heavy duty. It's great for... Ooh, battery low. It's great for pounding things, okay? I've actually used this thing to break up crystals for my different oils and whatnot, and different types of stones. So I got this on Amazon for like, I don't know, I think it was like 15 or 20 bucks, and I've had it for a while. Don't buy soapstone. Just don't. It's soft. They're destroying India to dig it up. Just don't do it, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to, because it's 4 parts cinnamon, 3 parts frankincense, and 2 parts myrrh. You're first going to decide which measurement you're going to use and how much incense you want. So if this is going to be one of your parts, this is going to be part 1, this is a full tablespoon, then you're going to need 4 of these of cinnamon, 3 of these of frankincense, and 2 of these of myrrh. It's a little much for my taste. But if you go with, say, 1/8 of a teaspoon as one of your parts, it's a little bit more reasonable, right? For like maybe 2 or 3 rituals, just to see if you like it or not. So we're going to say 1/8 of a teaspoon is 1 part. So you're going to grab your journal, and at the top of a blank page, you're going to write altar incense, write the recipe, 4 parts cinnamon, 3 parts frankincense, and 2 parts myrrh. You're going to write down part equals 1/8 teaspoon or whatever. Or you can even write down, see, what is it? Be a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, you know, that sort of thing. 1/4 plus 1/8 teaspoon of frankincense, you know, however you wanna put it down. Just make sure you write it down, record your results, and then you want to go ahead and let it sit and rest. Let the smells marry. You want to give it at least a week before burning it. But yeah, so you can get your ingredients, whatever they be. So I'm just gonna grab some fucking ash here, just for pretend here. Okay. So then you're gonna add your ingredients. La la la. Now, when it comes to gum resins and stuff like that, they have a tendency to kind of pop. So I place my hand over like this when I start pounding my resins. Because resins are expensive. You don't want that shit flying everywhere and losing it, okay? So start with one ingredient. Let's start with the myrrh. Myrrh tends to be bigger chunk form when I buy it. There tend to be like fatty tears of myrrh. So start with myrrh. Begin grinding it. If it gets gummy, stick that shit in the freezer. It'll make it much easier to grind. Same goes with your mortar and pestle. Stick that shit in the freezer. Cold tools are best when it comes to gums and resins. Then add your frankincense. Then your cinnamon. Crunchy, stirry. Now, you can use pre-ground cinnamon. In fact, I kind of suggest you do, because grinding down cinnamon sticks by hand with one of these things takes fucking forever. It's kind of a pain in the ass. So, I recommend maybe using pre-powdered ingredients, or if you don't want to go that route, get yourself an electric coffee grinder. Just don't put resins in it. Do not put resins in your electric coffee grinder, okay? If you're going to use an electric coffee grinder, maybe get a soft bristled brush to help kind of brush out some of those finer powdery ingredients. Anyway, yeah. So, stirry, mixy, poundy. Put it into a jar, clearly labeled, or some kind of container, whatever. Clearly label it. Put the date on it. Put the day you're going to check on it to see if you need to add anything. Alright? Actually, this stuff is, I think this is an older recipe. Yeah. Now, the only way to really test these things is to burn it. So you're going to have to get yourself some charcoal blocks. Do what I told you. Light them. Stick them in here. Covering them with ash will actually help to speed up the process. You don't actually have to wait for them to develop their own ash layer if you're kind of in a time constraint. If you're using like our timing correspondence of planetary hours and you've only got 46 minutes, you don't have that extra 5 minutes to dedicate to lighting the incense, then go ahead and use the stove method and just take a little bit of ash and sprinkle it on top, just lightly burying the charcoal disc ever so slightly, and then sprinkle your incense on top of that, okay? Because it'll help to smolder it. It won't burn as quickly. If you're still having problems with it, then you can also try a mica plate. You can try a tinfoil plate. You can try these little cups. This is something Robert and I have talked about before, these little tea light cups and stuff. Once you're done burning them, or even you can even pull them out. Probably, I'm not gonna do it, but you can put this on top of a charcoal block and put your incense in here and let it go out. But that tends to put the charcoal out that I found, so I don't like personally doing that. I prefer just let it smolder through the ash and stuff kind of approach. Okay, so now we're at 20 minutes, and I think we're done here. Okay, so I hope this has been enlightening. If you want to use that altar incense recipe for the way that Cunningham describes it, you can do it. It's also great, like I said, Kemetic recipe. You can use that for Egyptian rituals and stuff if you don't have access to Capet and other Egyptian-y type stuff. Now, you can use single ingredient incense if you want to just burn cinnamon or something like that. You can do that too. Cinnamon is great power. It's good. It's linked to the element of fire, and it's also linked in hoodoo with money and love. So, you know, things to keep in mind. Alright, I hope that's been, this has been like kind of a long video, and I hope I've covered everything. If I haven't, then I'll find out and I'll make a part 2, okay? So, that is it for tonight, guys. Sanapte.